Hello there, Ender's Sword here again, or I guess again in this game, Trial and Error as opposed to Ender's Sword. Just going to redo the necro kiting video thing that I did recently, largely because I've gotten a few questions on some of the things that I was showing, and I've also changed a fair bit of it a little to accommodate for some of the new AAs and stuff that's I guess we're out, but that I didn't really have yet. And some of them do make a fair bit of difference, like particularly the Reluctant Benevolence one does definitely cut down on the amount of time that you have to life tap or anything like that. It certainly takes care of healing you so that you can do your Death Bloom or whatever may be hurting you, or take occasional hits like that, and not really have to actually life tap through it, which I was doing the first time. That really does slow you down a fair bit. So I just figured I've been doing this kind of all day anyway. Started out a little probably hungover today. Actually not too bad. But it is New Year's Day, so was out last night and decided today just stay home and do a lot of double XPing since it is double XP weekend for the new year. And was just doing my lesson, doing a few potions here. So I got like 3 left. And decided I might as well record this while I am doing one of them, and so that I can re-clarify some points and answer a few questions. I had 3 people send tells today just asking a few things about the spell lineup and stuff like that. 2 of them had seen the first video and were just wondering if I was kind of still doing that. And another guy hadn't seen, but was just kind of watching what I was doing in-game today and asking what it was. I think he was root rotting at the time, just up here, and wanted to know kind of whether the kiting was better and so on. I actually talked to someone just 2 days ago, maybe it was yesterday, I forget now, that was still under the impression that when you were kiting something it actually did less damage to the mob, that when it was running at you that it would actually take less damage. So I wanted to kind of clarify that that's not really the case. I was pretty sure it wasn't, but I've been gone for a while, so I parsed it out, and of course it's not in fact the case. It's not true. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. You can kite as opposed to rooting. You're not losing out on anything by doing that. And hopefully, as this will demonstrate, if you are someone out there root rotting, this really is a fair bit faster than that, just due to the mobility that you have and everything. So hopefully this will kind of demonstrate that. I always do get a little bit sloppy on it when I am talking at the same time. I have a weird tendency of looking over at the microphone while I am talking, even though it has nothing to do with anything. I've got one of these Blue Yeti microphones, and Blue is the company, Yeti is the type or whatever. And but I do seem to just look over at it, even though it's supposed to just be kind of like ambient running in the background and pick up background noise or whatever. It's nothing that has to be right in front of your face or anything, but I tend to do that anyway. So I do get a little thrown off in doing it. I've made a few little improvements to what I do. One thing that I had kind of, I think, just forgotten about last time I did the video is obviously this stuff here, where if you're in a group with 3 or more people, then you're going to have those leadership AA active, which means that you're going to be able to actually see what is on a mob, and I find that that does help out a little bit. Sometimes you'll get distracted or have to switch targets or do something else, and you'll forget what you've actually cast on something. Like say I had to switch right now, or I go run a little bit and I forget, did I put 2 of my fire dots down or just one of them? Having that there certainly helps. The other things don't even have to be near you. They don't have to be in the same zone or anything. So I just got a trader running with a really cheap mercenary up just to keep 3 people in the group so that I get all the benefits of that, and then I'm not losing track of anything on the mob. And of course it's going to help me figure out if snare is about to come off, or if I missed anything, if I got a resist and didn't notice, if I got interrupted and didn't notice, things like that. It's just going to keep me up to date on it. I've also set, and you'll hear a couple times probably during this, a couple of audio triggers. So I've now got audio triggers for when Blistering Shadow wears off and for when Necrotizing Wounds wears off, as kind of pre-warnings that I'm about to have the snare wear off of the mobs, and that I've got to either re-snare it or at least check whether it's going to die before I actually need to re-snare it. In a lot of cases, those triggers will go off right about the time it's going to die anyway. So when I hear the trigger, I just kind of take a look down in the extended target window and see whether or not it's near death. If it's in the last 1 or 2%, then I don't usually worry about it at all or do anything. But if I get a trigger that snare's about to wear off, then, and it's left at like 10%, I've obviously got to re-snare the thing and maybe throw another dot on there, throw the pet on there, throw something like that, just to finish the thing off. So that has been helping me just not get caught unaware. I'm sure that most people have stuff like that set up already, just warnings for yourself. But as I just started replaying the game about a month and a half ago, I guess, yeah, maybe even close to 2 months now, I've just slowly been remembering, oh yeah, I have to set up a hotkey for this, I have to set this back up, I have to set this back up. Just stuff that you kind of forget about over a couple of years of not playing. When you look at exactly how complicated your UI is, and then just imagine making that again from scratch and from memory, there's still things that I'm sure that I had completely worked into my UI that aren't there. There's definitely a lot of rating stuff that I had in my UI that is not there, just commands to let people know what you're doing, assist commands, things like that. I haven't bothered to reset up yet, but you can see there's just tons and tons of activated abilities in crap now, and this is hardly with even any macros or anything scripted out there yet. And so there will be tons more changes. But I think I've pretty much got everything I need for this sort of kiting down now. So hopefully won't be too many changes from this point. I'm up to about 5,300-ish AA now, so nothing too tangible is going to be coming that was going to change the way I play on this. The only thing that would make a difference now is just getting more damage, getting better focuses, things like that, that may end up changing my spell lineup a little bit. But for what I'm doing right now, this is almost perfect. So I'll go through these spells themselves and why I did pick them. Obviously, I do start off with a snare. I do use the old Clawing Darkness, largely because of resists. The older a spell is, the more you're going to get to land it, even if two spells have identical resist checks. So the rank 3 of this darkness and the rank 3 of the new darkness have the same -50 resist check. So if you're at rank 2, you're only at -40. If you're at rank 1, you're only at -30. So it's going to get resisted a lot more than the old rank 3 spell if you've got that. But also, if two things have equal negative resists, the older the spell is, the easier it is to land. And not too many people are fully aware of that. It's not a huge difference, but there is a fair bit of difference there, so it can make the difference between getting it resisted, say, 1% of the time versus 2 or 3% of the time. And given that I really don't want to waste time having to Whisper Wind away from a mob to get it re-snared, everything is supposed to be timed out fairly accurately, and I've got a bunch of things chasing behind me and everything. I don't want obviously I just don't want any resists. The trade-off to that is that your snare is not going to be proccing your gift of magic for you, so that is a bit of a trade-off. Once I get to the rank 3 of the current level 1, I may test it out, see what the resist rates are, and switch up to that, just so that I do get the extra mana out of it. But right now I'm not finding mana to be that much of a problem anyway, so I'm pretty much sticking with the old one because the resist is more important to me than the gift of mana. I don't actually change what I'm casting. Given a gift right now, I just pretty much cast things in the same order. A lot of the stuff has approximately the same cost, and I'm just not really running into mana trouble in the first place, so it's not certainly not my priority. So that's the snare. Then I go on to Necrotizing Wounds. The reason that I picked these 6, I'm picking them in order of total damage that they do. So I just took the top 6 spells that do the top 6 total damage, so during their entire duration, added together, not talking about DPS. That would be a very different set of spells. And I just put those in order, and then I cast them in the inverse order of their length. So I'm casting the longest ones first and then going to the quickest. And it tends to work out fairly well because the Necrotizing Wounds ends up wearing off just before the snare would wear off. So it tends to give you about 3 to 4 ticks to get a snare back on. If your Necrotizing wears off, it's going to then proc another little dot that does a decent amount of damage afterwards and add on to the mob. So it may just finish something off right then. And if it doesn't, it gives you that time and warning that your snare is about to wear off and you have to reapply that and deal with it. So by doing them in the reverse order of their duration, it lets everything kind of play out to its full length, all wear off and all do their full damage. Whereas if you casted the longer ones last, obviously you're just, in a lot of cases, wasting the end of the ticks of them, and you're just waiting a lot longer for a thing to die, and you're just tempting it to go over its snare period and so on. I've got to work around Tangle Death here, which I don't usually like. It's a lot easier to do this when there aren't any of the named mobs up, but he's there, and a little higher up into this kiting area, there is the other named one, which I forget, a Twisted Strangler or something like that. He's up as well, and I don't like that, so I'm kind of working around both. I usually wouldn't be coming way up here, but I just want to avoid that. So the second dot that I put on, Blazing Shadow, and then Blistering Shadow. I then follow that up with Mortification because they are plant mobs largely that I am kiting around. And followed by Pyre of Hazarak, which is just all around excellent DPS, excellent total damage. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Probably one of the best overall spells that we have available to us right now. So that one's definitely in there. And then ending it off with Ignite Potential, which just is another thing that does tons of damage and is fairly short, so it kind of rounds out this lineup. I find that the 6 of these added up usually do enough damage to make sure that things die before I have to re-snare them. I'd say 95 to 99% of the time that is the case. I've got everything at rank 2. I haven't bothered to buy many of the rank 2 spells yet. I figured they'll go down a lot in price, but because I use these ones so frequently, I did go out and pay for them. Anyone obviously can get them just questing around yourself, but I took just the lazy route and spent the platinum on them, paying like 20,000 for the glowing and less for the other ranks. I did also get the rank 2 of Shadow Side, just so that my mana regeneration is a little bit better. Although then I'm not finding that that's a real barrier at this point. I'm quite able to keep up with this pace just using Death Bloom, not even having to go into, say, Blood Magic, which would definitely be tons more mana available to me, and I don't usually have to use anything tricky like the Kiss of Erelisi or anything like that I have that can provide extra, let alone your veteran AA or anything. Again, just trying to make sure I'm avoiding Tangle Death. Going a little slower than I normally would at this point, just because he is up there. And unfortunately, because it is double XP day, I'm anticipating that there's probably still a couple of groups up in this area. There were at least about a half an hour ago when I did my last potion. But I'm seeing that a few things are actually up here that weren't before, so maybe I'm getting lucky and they're gone. But I'll see how that plays out. I think this is overall going to be an okay demonstration. It may not be the fastest that I've ever done this, but again, that's not really the point. The point is to make sure that I'm just showing the technique of what I'm doing, kind of the logic behind why I'm doing it, because you're going to be doing it a little different depending on what your AA are, what your gear is. Your focuses may be a little different. My best focuses are Magic, Fire, and Corruption. They're the only ones that I have the focus up to a level 95. I've got the 20% to 70%, I think, focus up to level 95 on those three things. I made sure to get it because those are the spells that I plan on using. So the 6 that I'm using do tend to focus on Magic, Fire, and Corruption. I'm not using any poison or disease or anything like that. Obviously, no ice either, because we don't really even have that option. So that may vary depending on what focuses you have. If you have a poison that's way better than what mine is, I think mine only goes to like 85. It's like an 80% to level 85 type one or something like that. Then you're obviously, it may be that your Pallid Haze is better than one of these or something. But just whatever your best total damage is, then that's what you're going to use when putting on these mobs. You just want to make sure that you can kill 1,000,000 hit points of damage in the amount of time it takes for a snare to run its course, which you shouldn't be recasting anything. So you're not going to be using any of the swift dots or anything like that. You don't want to be going back to a mob ever once you've already cast on it. So the whole idea is to just get something on and then absolutely forget about it and just leave it in the dust behind you. You don't care about it anymore. I've seen some people kiting where they'll pull 3 things at the same time and then kind of switch between the targets. They'll be like snare, 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 pyre, 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 like poison, 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 or whatever. You don't want to be doing that. The only time you want to go back is like this. Snare's about to wear off, so I just want to make sure it doesn't. And then I'm immediately back onto my mob that I was just on. So you don't want to be constantly switching between. You're just losing time. It means that you have to care where these ones are behind you, whereas I currently don't. I just, as long as they're far enough behind me that I don't get hit by them, I don't really care where they're at. I'm just not going to go through them or anything like that, but I don't need to ever cast on them again. They don't have to be in range. I don't have to worry about sorting out who or when I'm going to switch back to this. I can keep my mouse pretty much where my casting is. Some people may keyboard cast. I don't like that as much. I tend to just be constantly moving around with that and mouse casting. I know it can be a little faster to do keyboard casts. You can cut off the refresh time a tiny little bit, but I find that doesn't add up to a whole lot, and what I'd be giving up in mobility I don't really want to do. So I'm much more comfortable just keeping my hand on the keys to move myself around, keeping the mouse going and whatever. So you just don't want to be cutting back and forth between mobs. The whole idea is to stay on one target at one time. You can see there the other named is up, so I do unfortunately have to kind of make sure I'm kiting around that. That is one of the only times that you do care where your mobs are behind you, because I can't lead them into him so that they can't just go grab aggro on the name thing. So I do have to be somewhat cognizant of where that actually is. And then I'm not just pathing over, especially where that is a wandering one. I don't want to be pathing things that I'm actually kiting into that mob, so you do want to be keeping track. of where you are, but otherwise, for casting purposes, I'm not paying attention to where they are. I don't care. If your gear is significantly better than mine, which I assume, honestly, a lot of people's will be and should be, if you've been raiding for the past couple of expansions, I haven't. So I've been gone for pretty much since the start of Underfoot, like a week or two into that. So if your raid focus is a lot better, if you've just got a lot better gear than I do, you probably got a bigger mana pool to begin with, although I'm not finding that an issue anyway. You may find a faster way to do this. You may be able to do this with like 5 dots instead of 6, and that's great. That's just going to add speed to everything you're doing. You're going to spend less time on each individual one, and you'll be able to move on to the next one a lot quicker. The whole idea on this is to plan your route out so that as you're done with one thing, you're immediately in the location to grab the next and just continue on with the kiting. You don't want a lot of travel time between your mobs. It's a little harder right now because there are obviously, as you can see, other groups and people around that are clearing out the area a little bit, and there is a couple of named things up that are preventing me from going straight to from point A to point B as much as I would like, but you can get the general sense of what I'm trying to do. As I see something that I want to pull, I'm kind of working in that direction so that when I've got my 6th dot on that thing, I'm in place to actually pull the next one. In this case, I just got a resist on that last part, so I will actually go back and drop on it. But now I've got like 6 behind me, but you can see I'm just completely indifferent to how many are behind me. It just doesn't matter, other than to just kind of keep this guy snared. I really don't care that he's what's back there. I just don't. It doesn't have anything to do with me at this point. So you just want to keep going, and grab whatever you can. Obviously, these guys have cleared up this area. Usually, you've got a few of these little guys going around. They took that one. I don't want to go near him. So this is the part that's going to slow you down. Obviously, you want to get to an area where there aren't people around, but given that it's the double XP weekend, it was very unlikely that I'm going to find this place entirely devoid of any life. So you just kind of have to roll with it, I guess, and take what you can get. But you can see for like a minute there, I end up looking around for a mob, and in that minute, I'm probably losing 2 kills. It should be taking you like 20-30 seconds to get these dots on, acquire your target, cast 7 spells, move on to the next thing. It should be about a 30-second process, and allow a little time for error in moving from one thing to the other. But in general, you're going to end up with something dying about every 45 seconds. If you compare that to something like root rotting, where you're going to have a target dying every like 2 minutes, or if you're really loading it up with dots, it may die a little quicker, but now you're spending a lot of mana in order to be able to do that, and you're not really getting fully paid off for it. This area is actually so clear that I kind of want to work back to the beginning. If I can't find a good little spot to go, I'm actually just going to levant back to the entrance. I can see there's another group, entire group up there working on other things, so it may just be that there's not enough stuff here and I'm going to have to go back to the start. Usually I don't backtrack now. It's just kind of a bit of a waste of time. Originally I was coming into this area, taking a few things, and then kind of hiding them back to the beginning over the area. Then I started just levanting back to the beginning, but in either case you slow down because you actually have to finish everything off before you can fully run back to your beginning spot and start over. So I tend to want to avoid doing that, just because you're again going to lose a minute or two that you could just be straight up killing, and 2 minutes can equal, well, with double AA and a potion going, 2 minutes should be like 6 AA. So you don't want to be doing that if at all possible. Under ideal conditions, if all these mobs were here with double XP and the potion going, I'd want to be seeing around 66 AA for this half hour. When I'm just running a potion on normal experience, obviously it's around 30 to 33 AA to be doing this when people aren't all up in my face and in my way. Pulling all kinds of stuff as if they have a right to play when the Necro is busy, which obviously they don't. But yeah, you just kind of have to deal with it today. There's like 44 people in the zone. Usually you've got like 10 or 15 or something like that, although it is kind of prime time as well, but it's been like this pretty much all day. You're just not going to really be escaping it on a day like this. Everyone's going to be out trying to make sure that they've got take advantage of all the doubling up today. But it's not really about the amount of AA that I can really produce in this. It's more about showing you the theory, and your actual numbers are going to vary so much anyway. It's barely going to make a difference. Like I could show you, oh, this is what I do that does 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever, but yours is going to be whatever your skill level's at, whatever your gear level's at, how comfortable you are with the area, how well you learn where things spawn. I'm usually pretty good at knowing, okay, they're here, 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 and I've got a pattern that I actually do these in when it is empty territory, but obviously with everything down sporadically, I can't do that. So, but still, the casting order is the same, and the casting order is the same no matter what zone you're in, no matter what level you're in, what level you're at, anything like that. The basic principle is still the same. You want to find a place that has room to kite in and then move from one place to the other, casting enough damage to just kill the things. You just want to make sure that you can fairly reliably kill them within the snare period that you've got, and whatever amount of dots it takes and whichever dots it takes to be able to do that is kind of the key to it. And it doesn't matter really if you're level 50 or you're level 95. It doesn't matter if it's if you've got 5,000 AA and raid gear. It doesn't matter, whatever. The principle is still basically the same thing, and it's always going to be the most efficient way to actually go about it. Just moving from one thing to the other, applying the minimum amount of damage that you safely can, and then moving on to the next thing, because it's not about damage, DPS, it's not even always about mana efficiency, it's about time efficiency. It's about making sure that you're utilizing the time that you have available. If in a 30-minute period you've got enough time to make 3,000 casts or whatever you can do in 30 minutes, that's probably not accurate at all, I don't care. But whatever the amount of time is, that's the time that you have to kill things, and that's how many casts you want going on to mobs. If mana is capping you, then you have to be more efficient. If the space that you're in doesn't have enough mobs, maybe you want to find another one. If whatever your barrier is, maybe you're just not doing enough. You know that your gear really sucks. You're not doing enough damage, and it's taking you 10 casts to kill a thing in the area that you want to be. Maybe you have to either change areas. It'll give you something to focus on in terms of getting better gear. You now know which focus you need to improve. You now know which AA that you want to improve. Things like that are going to give you something to focus on and improve. When you're there kiting, like let's say it does take you 9 dots in order to be able to kite something, you want to be focused on, okay, what do I do to hit the point where instead of 9 it takes me 8? So while I'm doing this 6, I'm thinking, is there a way to make this 5? And right now there's probably not for me. I could potentially get away with it with the vines themselves, but it's unlikely that I would get there with the scavengers, since I don't get the extra damage for them being plants. So then I'd have to look at, okay, well, maybe when I start raiding again, which I think I'm going to quite soon, what am I going to focus on? Well, I now know the 3 areas of damage that I'm casting most out of. And then I'm going to balance that with, well, what do I need to then also be better on a raid and things like that for the rest of whatever guild I join and stuff like that. So it just gives you something to focus on. What AA am I going to get next? So you should always be getting things in the order of how it's actually going to help you in the short term. So if you don't have like maxed AA and stuff yet, how long have I been maxed here? If you don't have maxed AA, I wish they'd raise the cap to 50 because you can get 50 in like a minute now. If I don't have the absolute max, then you want to be saying, well, what AA is going to help me get more AA faster? Because you want to be obviously maxing that out as much as possible. That's probably going to be your DPS stuff. That's going to be the stuff that lowers the mana cost. That's going to be stuff that makes you cast faster, that gives you more crits, that gives you more damage per crit, that is going to reduce, I guess I said mana consumption already, but things like that, that's what you're going to then be focused on, and that's what you're going to want to improve. So you're not going to then drift to something like, oh, I need perfected DMF. That doesn't help you level up. You're not going to go get Levant or something. That's not going to help you level faster, but there are certain things that will help you level faster regardless of what level you're actually at. I remember back in the day, a lot of people would say, well, you just go, level your character up to max level, and then once it's at max level, then you start AAing. And then they slowly started saying, well, you're going to need some key things like, say, run speed 5 or something that's going to make you a lot better. You're going to need this thing that makes you a lot better. At this point, there's really hundreds of them. I would say before you ever hit 95, you're probably going to want at least like 1,000 or 2 AA along the way, because it will actually make you that much quicker. There's no point in being level 95 as a Necro if you don't have any of the dot extension AA spent. It would make you so much slower. You're better off getting them as you can get them and then leveling up, whereas if you tried to level up directly to 95 without having any of that sort of thing, then you're just going to be doing it so much slower that you'd be in this zone casting like 20 dots on something to have it die, when you could just be spending a little more time and getting that out of the way and making sure that you are actually efficiently then leveling up and taking care of stuff like that. How long is left? 45 seconds. So just see here. I don't know how long I capped myself here on the AA. I think I missed maybe 1 or 2 just because I'm not really paying attention. But I think it's a reasonable example to show people what is going on. So I'll just finish this last guy off by throwing extra dots on him. And that's always an option. I keep these up. It's just the next most damaging things, and then the life tap, which is just quicker. I want to just finish this one off so that I can kind of go back to the front. And I'm just going to Levant back. So I've got 48 AA, and I spent 10 of them as we were going there. So 58, that's not too bad. Again, I think ideally I'd be looking for about 66 there if I'm using the potion and doubling, because I'd get about 33 when we're not doubled up. But that's pretty close, and that's not too bad given that a lot of the area was actually empty. So I hope that does provide a few little tips and tricks on what to do and how you can kind of improve your game, and hopefully this makes it a lot more clear on how you can customize it to what your situation is. Because I think the first time that I did this, I was very much just focused on this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. Hopefully this gives you a little more idea of how that you can do it yourself and set your own spell lineup regardless of what zone you're in, regardless of what level you are, regardless of what your AA is, things like that. So overall here, pretty good. For those wondering, just because I never actually showed on the map, this is Beast Domain, so I tend to start at the Sereth side here, and you can kind of kite this entire area up to about this river. You're not going to kill everything there. It's because there's a couple groups going on, but you actually do cut a pretty big swath out of it. I'd say up to about this point, you could potentially kill about 100% of the mobs, assuming there's nothing named up or whatever like that. So you can kill about 45 to 50. I want to try and hit the 50 point. I'm sure that people out there that are geared better than me can get to the 50 AA a lesson point when XP is not doubled, of course. I had a lesson earlier today that was 92 AA in a single half hour. That's not too bad. So that's pretty fun to do. I wish they would raise the saving cap up to like 100 now that that is possible, because it kind of, you have to pre-plan what you want to buy, and I usually forget about it, and then halfway through the lesson I just kind of go into my AA tab and buy something when I don't I just buy the first thing available so that I don't miss out on points. There, got Earth and Brilliance, I guess, during that, so that's not the best, but up to about 5,300 here, just in case people are wondering what I was working with. The first video, I think maybe was like 3,800, something like that, so you can put them on fairly quick. And I hope that is helpful. If anyone has any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to ask. I am trial on the Zedgeny server. You can either just ask me there, or send me something on Necrotalk, or just send me a note here on YouTube, and I'm more than happy to answer you or do another small thing demonstrating something. But I did just want to refresh this particular video because I did change a lot of what I was doing and just show that update. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that you have a great new year, and I hope that everyone is out there taking advantage of the double XP and using that to get over your hangover from last night.